So guys, yeah, I'm a computer geek. I geek out on all this stuff, and I'm excited to go ahead and kind of just share what I've learned throughout the years, so that way you guys can go ahead and leverage it for yourself. And although influencers are my target audience, if you're an entrepreneur or a business owner, I guess technically you are an influencer, because you are trying to influence your target audience to take some type of action. But most importantly, when you have those followers, your goal is to convert those followers into cash, right? So that's what I'm going to go ahead and share with you guys today. I don't have that much time to share, but I'm going to do my best to give you as much info as I can, so that way you guys can take action right away. So first and foremost, before you go ahead and do anything, I want you to go ahead and understand that there's a big mistake that everybody makes when it comes to marketing and sales, and that is that every time they go ahead and put their post out there, they're trying to get someone to buy something. And if I were to compare that to anything, that's kind of like asking for marriage on the first date. So what I'm going to show you today is how we're going to go ahead and avoid the mistake and build an automated system that nurtures your audiences, so that way when they're ready to buy, you're the person that they're likely to buy from. So before I get into that, I want to go ahead and kind of share some information about me. My name is Carlos Vasquez. Bianca gave me a well defined introduction, but I'll give you guys a quick little run through why it is that I've been hired and been brought on board to do all these kinds of campaigns, so that way you can understand why you should listen to me. So first and foremost, as a marketer, there was one pivotal moment in my life that changed everything for me, and that was when I worked on the radio. We did a prank call to Fidel Castro, but more on that in a second. If you rewind back in time, I've always been a computer geek. I've always been the type of person that will go ahead and grab a computer. I had an EGA, I had a 101000 EGA monitor where I was basically learning how to code in DOS, batch script, all that geekery. Fast forward to 1998, I enlisted into the Marine Corps. 99, I shipped out to boot camp, and then I became an ammunition technician. I also became a martial arts instructor. I also became a computer specialist, and along that, I also became a Marine Corps recruiter. So the reason why I bring that up is because I learned the power of building processes, understanding processes, and then as an instructor, I learned how to teach processes, and as a Marine Corps recruiter, I learned how to sell, so that way when you are out there trying to get people to take action, I learned the techniques to convert that person into an actual conversion or a sale or a contract, right? So with all of that experience that I learned in the Marine Corps, I was able to finish my first tour of duty. And then I went and I decided to volunteer to work on a radio station with two good buddies of mine. And their names were Enrique Santos and Joe Ferrero. And one of the things that they were known for were prank calling a bunch of people. And one of the prank calls that really put us on the map was a prank call to Fidel Castro. So if you've heard about that call, this happened back in 2003. Well, we ended up getting enough information to make contact with the city hall. City hall was able to kind of just forward the call all the way to we got to Fidel Castro himself. So that right there got everybody excited. And if you know anything about South Florida and Miami, then you'll know that Cuba is literally 90 miles away from Key West. It's not that far. So getting that close to Fidel Castro really changed everybody's a mindset that he was touchable, because before everyone thought he was untouchable. But the fact that us on the radio were able to create a prank call that actually got to him, it was exciting for all of us. So everybody heard about this call. It went all over the news. It was on Fox News, CNN, BBC. It went everywhere. It went viral before viral really became a thing. And if you wanted to hear the call, we ended up creating a website based off of a colorful name that Fidel Castro gave us. I bought the domain, and what we did was we put what we call the email list funnel, where basically you go to the website, you put your name and email address in there, and when you put that info in there, you're going to go ahead and get access to a link to hear the call. And because of this little invention, we ended up building an email list of over 250,000 email addresses. And from that moment on, this little voluntary gig that I was doing on the radio station became a paid for me, and I started actually making money building lists and trying to convert these lists into cash. And which leads me to the whole point of why I'm even here. And I'm going to show you guys how to build an automated sales system that turns followers into paying clients. All right. So feel free, guys, if you guys have any questions, comments, or anything, you can go ahead and put it in the chat. So that way I can go ahead and look them up here as well. But go ahead and put anything in there. But if you guys are ready, I'd like to kick this off. If you guys go ahead and put a put a 1. If you guys are ready to rock and roll, I'm going to show you guys how to do this real quick. So let's see here. I'm going to make sure that I'm talking to a bunch of people and not to myself, which I do tend to talk to myself a lot. So, all right, good to go. All right, awesome. Perfect. All right, so now let's kick this off. So let's talk about the first 3 core problems that we tend to find ourselves when it comes to building these marketing systems, these campaigns. And the first core problem is that entrepreneurs try to sell to everyone right away. As soon as they go ahead and get an opportunity to put out an ad or an image or a video, they're always focused on trying to get people to convert. And well, like I said earlier, that's kind of like asking for marriage on the first date. So we need to stop that. So that's the first problem we got to do. The second problem that they tend to get involved with is that they miss out on 97% of the potential customers. And there's a reason why, because out of the entire market that's available to them, they tend to want to only focus on the 3% people. And I'm going to share with you what that means in a second. And the third is that people buy on their timeline, not yours. So your job is to plant the right seed before they're ready. All right. So I'm going to reveal to you exactly how to get this done. So that way you can go ahead and make sure you're incorporating that in your strategies. All right. So first thing is first, I want to talk about what's called the 97-3 rule. Okay. So you'll notice that this triangle right here, if you do the math, it's 97 and it's 3, right? Comes out to 100%. 3%, which is at the top, are the audience that are actively looking for a solution right now. So these are the people that are already aware that they have a problem and they're trying to find solutions to their specific problem. So naturally, an entrepreneur is going to want to go ahead and spend money on ads or put up their posts in hopes that they're going to get the attention of the 3% of the people. The problem is that everyone else is doing the same exact thing. In other words, people that are also spending money to get their attention, the one that can spend the most money to capture the 3% of the people, they're going to win that race. Okay. But that's the bad news. The good news is you have the rest of the market, and that's 97%. 97% of the people, these are the people that they probably don't even know that they have a problem. So they would be open to improving their circumstances. However, they're just, unaware that they actually have to make a solution right now. So the good thing is that we want to be able to go ahead and create campaigns around that mindset. So that way, when they're ready to buy, we're going to be the first person that they're going to come to. Okay. So what I'm going to share with you is how to develop a strategy to focus on a 97 percentile, because what this will mean to you is that while everyone is focused on the 3%, you'll be able to spend your money efficiently. And you know what? Not necessarily money, your attention, your resources, your time on the 97 percentile, because they're likely going to convert when they're ready. And when you do this right, it creates kind of like a little snowball effect, and it gets bigger and bigger, and it becomes a perpetual machine to generate more and more leads. Okay, so with that said, let's talk about what I call the inception strategy. To me, this is probably my favorite movie. I've probably seen this movie about maybe, I don't know, 100 times. I've seen this so many times. I've actually put it to sleep so I can listen to it. And maybe in my dreams, I can kind of just listen to Inception. Now, the point of the movie, if you've ever seen it, is that it's Leonardo DiCaprio is like the main actor here. And his job, he's an expert into going into somebody's dream where they plant ideas in their dreams. And what that person, the target, ends up doing is that they end up thinking that the idea was their idea, and then they take action based off of the idea they had in their dream. And well, this strategy is kind of similar, where we want to come up with clever ways to plant items in their path, so that way we make them feel like they stumbled upon a great idea that they should take action on. All right. So ultimately, when we want them to take action, we're hoping that they finally decide to buy from us, and they won't even consider our competition. So what I'm sharing with you now is the inception strategy. All right. So here's how the strategy pretty much breaks down. The first part of the strategy is to identify your ideal customer. So what that means is that if you're talking to everybody, we have this expression in the marketing world that says, if you're talking to everybody, nobody listens. So the idea is that we want to make sure that whenever we're going to create any type of content, that we want to use to convert someone, we have to make sure that we're writing stuff that is relevant to that person. And the only way we're going to do that is by identifying our ideal customer. So the 3 things that you would want to do when you're identifying your ideal customer is, number 1, you want to understand what problems they are facing. All right. You want to understand what it is that keeps them up at night. All right. And the third thing is, you want to come up with what solutions that they have tried before. So those 3 things to help you identify your target audience is to identify what problems they're facing, what keeps them up at night, and what solutions they've tried before. Now, I know I'm kind of going too fast or whatever, but remember, this video is going to be recorded. You guys can watch it later. And of course, the slideshow, I think that if it's okay with you guys, we'll be able to provide it for you guys after the show. All right, so that's the first part. Identifying your ideal customer. The second part is creating content that plants that seed. All right. So the idea is that we want to, instead of selling, we want to educate them about the real problem and then why other solutions fail. We want to make sure that we are painting a picture. And the way I like to do this is by using storytelling. Okay, we could also use case studies, and we could also use testimonials. We want to make sure that we're planting seeds that they can see how other people are doing it by telling them stories. We could also use case studies to show them proof. And of course, they start really understanding a little bit more about how it's relevant to them. And they're not going to be the first one coming up with this solution. So a lot of people don't like to take action because they feel like they don't know if it works. And when you use these different techniques, they start feeling that they can trust that solution for themselves. All right. And then the third part of the strategy is to automate the follow-up. All right. I personally love email. I love SMS. I love automated messages through Instagram, through Facebook pages, and you could use web chat as well. There's a bunch of different ways to automate the follow-up, so that way you can ultimately, no matter what day or what time they're interacting with your brand, they're receiving the experience when it's convenient to them. And of course, you want to make sure that everyone is going to receive the same experience completely, right? So that's what scaling means, that no matter how many people interact with your brand, you're able to support every single person interacting. So you have to automate. And SendPulse, I mean, personally, I've used SendPulse in the past, and SendPulse allows you to create a lot of these systems already, so you don't have to reinvent the wheel. And SendPulse will work 24/7, and it makes sure that it increases your chances of deliverability, making sure it doesn't end up in spam. It does so much already to help you make sure you're getting the message out at the right time, at the right place. All right. So the 3 parts of the strategy: identify your target audience, create content that plants the seed, and automate the follow-up so we can get that person to take the next step. All right. So now we know the strategy. Now, before you start creating anything, we have what's called the customer stages. You have to understand that not every stage that a customer goes through, they're thinking the same exact way. It's basically a process, all right? And these stages really help you understand how to craft your messaging so that that person feels that you're directly speaking to them, okay? So we want to come up with we want to not come up with the right stages. We want to come up with the right content for the right stages. And I'm going to break down each one of those stages so that you can understand how you're going to craft that content. All right, so the first stage, when it comes to the customer mindset, is what I call the suspect stage. And a suspect is someone that is unaware that they have a problem, but they are willing to consume some type of content in order to improve their current circumstances. So in other words, they may not be shopping for anything in particular, but if they see something that seems like a good idea, they're probably going to be interested. All right. So that's what we're trying to do. A lot of people, they tend to try to pitch their sales to a bunch of suspects. And like I said earlier, a suspect has no idea they have a problem. So they're not going to go ahead and just want to buy. But if you plant some type of doubt or some type of seed of like interest, then they're going to start paying attention. All right. So now once they start paying attention, then the next stage is called a subscriber stage. And a subscriber is somebody that realizes they have a problem, and now they're currently researching different ways to improve or solve their specific problem. So this person may be willing to share their contact information in exchange for answers to their problem. Okay, so they may opt in for something through either an email list or a direct message or whatever the case is. Okay, now these guys, like I said, they're aware they have a problem, but they're probably not ready to buy yet. They might be, but I wouldn't try to pitch them just yet. Then you have what's called a lead. A lead is someone that not only realizes they have a problem, but these people realize that you are someone that can probably help them solve their problem. So these people are now going to be more open to hearing a solution because they're considering making a purchase. All right. So these people will probably book an appointment on your calendar, register for a webinar regarding a solution, and these people are most likely ready for a pitch. All right. Now, after that, you have what's called a potential buyer. A potential buyer is someone that not only realizes they have a problem, they want to solve their problem, they know that you can solve their problem. Now they know that you can offer the solution and they know how much it's going to cost. Now we're just waiting for that person to say, yes, take my money and give me the services because I need my problem solved. All right. So these people, they already went through a presentation. They already went to your sales page. They consumed the videos. They went to the order form. For whatever reason, we're just waiting for them to pull the trigger. And then we have what's called a buyer. A buyer is someone that gave you their money. They're ready to convert. They're ready to go ahead and say, I'm waiting for you to fulfill what you promised. And I've given you my money. Then you have what's called a repeat buyer. A repeat buyer not only has bought from you in the past, but they're buying from you again to either keep their problem solved or solve additional problems. So these people, you're not going to talk to a repeat buyer the same way you would talk to a lead. So that's why it's always important to know what stage they're in. And then after that, this is your final stage. It's called the fan advocate stage. And the fan advocate stage is that type of person. For example, a fan is someone that loves what you do and they're willing to buy basically anything from you. Think about, I'm an Apple guy, so I'm a big Apple fan. So I will go ahead and I'm very likely to buy an Apple product. I'm a big fan. All right. But then you also have what's called advocates. And these are the people that not only love what you do, maybe they don't even love it, but they're willing to share to others about your services. And an advocate is going to go ahead and help you get more referral business, affiliate business, whatever the case is. All right. So the key here is, before you go ahead and create any type of campaign or write any type of email, you want to make sure that you understand what stage that person's in. So that way that person can go ahead and feel like you're speaking to them. Let's see here. I see some questions here coming up. Okay, cool. You know what? I'll save the questions for the end, so that way we can go ahead and I'll try to answer all your questions afterwards. All right. So cool. So now those are the different mindsets. But how do we move someone from one mindset to another? But most importantly, how do we move them in a way where it feels natural? So you're not trying to push them forward in a way where it doesn't feel organic. And that's what we have what's called the offers. These are the actual deliverables that we use to convert someone from one mindset stage to another. All right. So the first one for the suspects, we use what's called a lure. A lure is a lot like fishing. Right before you go fishing, if you want to catch a lot of fish, I mean, there's people out there. I mean, this is what I did when I first started fishing. I just went ahead and I threw out my fishing line, and I hoped that a bunch of people, a bunch of fish would start nibbling at my bait. Well, the problem was that not many, I didn't get any bites. Nothing really happened. So my buddy, he kind of laughed at me. He said, listen, you want to catch a lot of fish? Of course, that's why we're here. He said, watch this. So he had this big bucket, and in the bucket, he had what's called chum. And if you don't know what chum is, look it up. I don't want to say it, but listen, chum, you threw it in the water. And what ended up happening was that there were so many fish that actually started circling around the actual boat. And it made me realize that, damn, you know what? I threw out my fishing line in hopes that these fish would come to this one little line. When he threw out the chum, I threw out my fishing line, and now I always, every time I threw my fishing line in, I always caught a fish. And that's the same thing about marketing. We always want to create what's called lures, and lures could be in the form of a blog article, a podcast episode, or a video that exposes a problem. All right. And when you get as many people to consume your lure, then what will happen is that at the end of that lure content, you have some type of call to action to get that person to the next stage in your journey. Okay. So the lure helps attract our suspects. The next one for the subscriber is what we call a lead magnet or a free irresistible offer. Now, they actually are two separate things here. A lead magnet is the most popular version of the name because the idea is that you are going to go ahead and give something like an ebook or a checklist or a blueprint in hopes that someone's going to give you their email address. The problem is that the word lead magnet, me naturally being a salesperson, I feel like a lead is someone that is interested in your services. They're aware they have a problem, so they're going to be open to talking to you about the solution. And that's why I feel that the word lead magnet is a little misleading, and I prefer to call it a free irresistible offer. And the reason why is because it doesn't give you the false impression that the person is a lead. A free irresistible offer is something that you give away for free in exchange for their contact info. But the difference is there's something called free offers and there's free irresistible offers. The difference is a free offer is just something you give away for free. But if it's not exciting, no one's going to give you their good email address or anything. They don't think it's that important. This is why I like to throw in the word irresistible, because irresistible means that they want to make sure they're getting that offer. So if you give away something for free and you realize that no one's opening the emails that you're sending, it's probably because your offer wasn't really that good, or you're not getting anyone to sign up. But if you make it irresistible, they want to make sure they get it. So that way, that's the reason why I like to kind of make that differentiation with the term, because I want to make sure that what I'm creating is irresistible. And now I've had people ask me, Carlos, how do I know with what I created is actually irresistible? And I kind of just asked them this follow-up question. I said, listen, if you can answer yes to this next question, then you have yourself a free irresistible offer. And the question is, if you decided to put a price on this, would that person be willing to pay for it? If the answer is yes, boom, you got yourself a free irresistible offer. If the answer is no, I'm not saying it's not going to work, but you're probably going to get a bunch of junk emails or a bunch of people saying, no, thank you. All right. So that's where the whole free irresistible offer comes in. Then we have what's called the foot in the door offer. And this is what we use to convert a subscriber into an actual lead. And this could be an appointment, right? Although it's free, but it's an appointment. People's time is valuable. So they want to go ahead and make sure that they're not going to waste their time. So the foot in the door offer helps us make that transition from someone not interested in buying to someone being open to buying. Another thing that can be done is with what's called people call it a tripwire offer, which is maybe a low ticket product that helps them kind of commit to you, so that way they can continue moving forward in your journey. All right. Now, when I say low ticket item, I'm talking about something that's maybe less than $20 or 20 euros. And the reason why is because you want to make it such an impulse easy buy that they don't have to consult with their spouse, if they're obviously married, to make that purchasing decision. And did you know that there's a statistic that says that if you get someone to buy from you once, you have a 76% chance that they're going to buy from you again. So this step right here also just helps speed up that buying process with that contact. All right. So that's what that foot in the door offer is all about. Then you have what's called the gateway offer. And this is what we use for a potential buyer. A gateway offer is the actual appointment itself, the call itself, or a webinar. And the goal for this step is to give that person enough information to make a buying decision. Okay. Then you have what's called your main offer. And this is what you actually deliver to convert that person into an actual buyer. Okay, this is what we're trying to sell. This is usually the flagship product that we're trying to sell, so that way we can go ahead and pay the bills. Then you have what's called a profit booster, and this is what you use for your repeat buyers. And for your repeat buyers, you basically are using this to increase the customer lifetime value, so that way one person can help you generate more cash flow. All right, and then of course for the fan and advocates, you have what's called a referral loyalty offer. And this is basically for a referral offer. If you go ahead and you can incentivize people, if they refer you business, you can pay them a commission. A loyalty offer is something where if they buy from you, for every 10th ice cream you buy, you get the lemon one free. So these offers help you really solidify that fan or advocate, or both. Okay. Now, if you're ever stuck trying to figure out what to do or what to create, there's two tools that I personally like to use, because if there's anything I've learned in the marketing world is that I don't like reinventing the wheel. I'd rather figure out what people already want, so that way I can create content and create products that are likely to make a difference. And the first tool that I like to use is a tool called Answer the Public. And this is one of my favorite tools. They do have a free version right here. I think like the first 3 searches are for free, but after that, you'd have to wait for the next day. So it's 3 searches a day. However, they do have a paid version where it's unlimited searches. Now, what this does, it will go ahead and log in to the back end of Google and the search engines, and you ask it a question. You give it a search phrase. Like let's say, for example, in this example, I put marketing. And it'll show you every question or the top questions people are Googling based off of that search phrase. And I don't know if you can see here, but like one of the questions here is, are marketing and advertising the same thing? Another one says here, why marketing is important in business. So what this is telling me is that these are literally the questions people want answers to. So my goal as a marketer is to create content that answers these questions. All right. So this is one of my favorite tools to go ahead and kind of just not reinvent the wheel and figure out what my target audience wants. My second tool is a little website called Amazon. Now, this is one of the best search engines out there because this tells you what other people are literally paying for. And if you get to see what people are spending money on, you get some insight on what you can create to get your piece of the market. All right. So what I personally like to do, I like to go to the book section inside of the Amazon.com site. And what it will do is it'll go ahead and show me the top books that are being sold. Plus, you can sort by how many reviews they have. And you can literally read the reviews to find out why people like it and why people don't like it. And you can use that information to your advantage. So like I said, I don't like to reinvent the wheel. I like to go ahead and see what's working. And I like to make my version of basically the same thing. All right, so that is basically how we go ahead and create the custom, create content around the customer stages, and then how to figure out what type of content to create. Now, the next part is I want to actually map this all out for you so that way you guys can see how a system would actually look. So I'm going to stop sharing for a moment here, and I'm going to share another screen. Hang on a second. Hold on, I got a few monitors here, so I want to make sure I got the right one. Hopefully I don't get cut. All right. Separate tab. I use a browser called Arc. Okay, cool. All right, so engineer, I'm going to share a tab. Okay, I'm sharing the tab. If you can go ahead and put my tab on the screen. All right, cool. Thank you. All right, good to go. All right, so what I'm going to show you right now is I'm going to show you how I go ahead and map out an entire system. So that way it's kind of like a blueprint. Before you start constructing a home or a property, what you're going to do is you want to have an architect understand the code, understand the dimensions, so that way they know how much space they're going to be working with. So when they create the blueprint, you can issue this blueprint to every contractor, like the electrician, the plumber, the floor person, the carpenter, the floor person. Sorry, I'm just definitely not it's not my expertise. Anyways, the right people to do the job. Okay. So now, when it comes to attracting the audience, okay. And by the way, I'm going to go ahead and share this with this blueprint with the team, so that way you guys. So make sure you're signing up into the make sure you're registered, so that way you get access to all this stuff. Because if you're not, we don't know where to send it to. Okay. So the first thing I like to do when it comes to paid traffic, one of my favorite is using Meta ads, because it targets Facebook and Instagram. Fun fact: if you create a video ad on Facebook and post it on Facebook and Instagram, not only will the algo really help, but you're able to retarget people based off of how much of that video they consumed. So if you're creating a 3-minute video, you can retarget people who have consumed 50% or more of that video. So that's a really good indicator that that person is interested. All right, so I like to create my lure content around the paid ads right there, and use paid ads to push that content out. All right, so now at the end of that video, then you say something like, listen, if you're really serious about, about whatever, click here to download my ultimate guide to marketing, whatever. I'm just giving you an idea, okay? So every single one of these are going to drive people to an opt-in page. And the opt-in page is just designed to go ahead and get that person to give you their name and their email address. All right. And what's really cool about this is that no matter what the source is, like, for example, LinkedIn or Twitter or X. You know what? I have to update that. Or you got YouTube. You can drive traffic all to that same opt-in page. So it doesn't matter the traffic source. You can send traffic all to that same opt-in page. Okay. And then after that, I like to go ahead and get people to a thank you page. Okay. And that thank you page basically confirms that the email was captured, and we're telling them to go ahead and check their inbox so that they can access that lead magnet or that free irresistible offer. Now you'll notice that I don't give away the actual free irresistible offer here because I want to make sure they're giving me a good email address. Now let me share with you what happens behind the scenes. So everyone that gets captured, they're added to an automated sequence. All right. So like if you're using like Zapier or whatever, you can send data from your landing page software right into SendPulse. And then what will happen is that SendPulse you can pre-program some emails so that person will automatically receive an email no matter what time they sign up for, and they'll get an email with the link. And then that email will have a link that takes them to a download page. And then that download page will go ahead and have the PDF document uploaded to it. So you'll notice that the only way to get that PDF is by that email. So that is how you help improve your deliverability. If you're creating a free irresistible offer, people want to make sure they get it. So they're going to look for it and they're going to click on the link. And a fun fact is that if the emails you send are constantly being clicked, then people are realizing that you are not a spammer. Okay. So you always want to create free irresistible content to get that person to check their email. Now you may get less people on your list. However, you will actually have a lot higher quality people on your list. All right. So now, after we've gone ahead and given them their email, given them their lead magnet or their free irresistible offer, the next logical step is we want to convert that person into an appointment, right? Let's just go with the appointment. So then we have a calendar appointment system here. That's the booking page that lets that person choose a day and time that works for them. And if they book, they're taken to a booking confirmation page. And that booking page is also linked from that thank you page. Okay. Fun fact, you can actually put a code on every single one of these pages, and the automation systems will know what pages they visited and they didn't visit. So that way you can create automations that are relevant to them. And a good example of this would be abandoned carts. I don't know if you guys ever noticed that if you ever went to an Amazon page or a product page and you didn't buy, you may see retargeting ads to get you to finish that purchase. And that's what help you find people that didn't complete the action. All right. So now, if we have the funnel here, this is a funnel, email list funnel to an appointment funnel. The goal is we want to get as many people to book an appointment. So in the first email, I want to get people to say, hey, by the way, did you know that we actually have an appointment? Why don't you schedule a one-on-one call with me and I'll help you with your marketing. I'll build a free strategy. Okay. So now, if they haven't booked, the automations will know that. And then there's a delay. And what we'll do is we'll wait for, let's say, a day. If they haven't booked, then we're going to have another sequence here. And I like to do it in threes. If they didn't book, I want to remind them that they can book. Okay. So each one of these emails are going to be email reminders to remind them to book an appointment because I want to help them with their marketing. Okay. And of course, after they've booked, what good is the booking if they don't show up? This is why we want to make sure that after they booked, it's kind of like when you guys sign up for today's webinar or today's event, you want to make sure that we need to make sure you showed up. So we want to gently nudge you and remind you. So that's what these email reminders are all about. We're trying to get that person to show up. And I have a little phone icon here, and this right here reminds them how we're going to connect, how that appointment is going to happen, and we increase our show up rate. And then after that, then we got the follow process after that. So this is a system that I personally use this system myself. And I go ahead and build this so that no matter what time or day people are logging on, they're going to get the same experience. And that is a system that you guys can incorporate today. You just have to understand the stages they're in. You have to understand the offers you have in place for that. And of course, you want to make sure you have the right content to get that person to feel like you're the person that's been helping them and they want to hire you or work with you to change their lives. All right, so that's it for now. I want to go ahead and kind of open up the floor for some questions here. I do see some questions that I'll try to go in there. I don't have too much time. However, feel free to follow me on Instagram, Miami Marketer. I can try to answer whatever questions you have. We have a bunch of other speakers that are going to be able to help out as well and get some great presentations too. So I don't want to take up much of their time, but I do see here some questions. So How do you integrate a messaging platform with user data to track whether, hold on a second here, whether a recipient has passed the first part of the campaign or is a repeat buyer? How do you integrate a message? Okay, so that's a great question. So very similar to how I have these pages. If you have the right systems in place to track the pages they visit and they don't visit, you can send automations based off of what they did go to and what they didn't do or what they didn't sign up for. Okay. Okay, cool. Yeah. All right. So next question, what tools do you use to manage the process and how do you control the email flow? So me personally, I use a software called High Level. That's one of my favorite tools out there because it kind of just streamlines and scales. It consolidates a lot of platforms into one. And the cool thing is that you can actually use SendPulse as the email service to so that way the emails get sent out. So you can connect the SendPulse server, email server info in there, and High Level will send the instructions to SendPulse, and SendPulse will go ahead and do the deliverability. Okay. Cool. And then the next question is, how do you handle the challenge of automating sales across multiple channels, email, social media, and website? Well, to me, it's not really much of a challenge. I guess the only challenge I would face is that you want to be able to track where it came from. And if you're using something like High Level, most of the time, the links will include the source, and the source will show up in your report so that way you can identify which source gave you the most traffic. But before you go ahead and do that, and if you don't want to trust that only, you can create what's called UTM links, UTM parameter links. And what that means is that you can create specific little codes in the link itself to help you track what was the campaign that brought you the sale, what was the source, what was the actual content, etc. Okay. And all right, I mean, time on deck is 11:49. I don't want to take any more questions, but if you guys have any other questions, feel free to reach out to me. I'm sending the slideshow and the blueprint to the team here at SendPulse, so you guys can have it. And I think I made it just in time, Brianna. Thank you guys so much for your time. Have a great day and enjoy the rest of the show. See you guys soon.
That was like perfect on time. I've never seen someone so in time like this. It was perfect.
Marines,
Thank
baby.
you so much. Yeah. It's always, there's a reason behind it. So thank you so much. It was awesome. And guys, I know you guys have a lot of questions, and thank you for that. Go talk with Carlos on their social media, and I'm sure he's going to reply to all of you. So thank you so much, Carlos. It was awesome.
My pleasure.